education.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is The Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
I must start the show today by saying, of course, Happy Mother's Day. And if you think about the sacrifices that moms make and all the things that they do for their children and their families, they deserve so much more than just a day. But thank you for taking some time out of this Mother's Day to do a podcast where we talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever's been eating away at you. Do you have an opinion? You've been watching the headlines, something that's just a resonating topic with you? Please, today's your day. In fact, I had some people ask me to do a show where I didn't have a specific theme. I kind of like a themed show. Normally, it gives me some direction. I like to kind of have a storyteller format when it comes to what we do. There's kind of a linear narrative. Start off with a monologue of some kind, and then open up the phones. But today is just really more of a, whatever is on your mind. And the first thing, of course, I wanted to do was acknowledge any of the moms who are listening. We love you, and Happy Mother's Day. Also, I want to thank John Tan in the Philippines. John, this was months back, he posted a photograph of a Charles Darwin bobblehead. Now, I don't know if these are mass-produced. I'm not really sure how this came to be, but apparently he is involved in the making of them, and he was kind enough to send one. It took a long time to get here, and it just arrived 2 days ago, right here. Charles Darwin. It's a Charles Darwin bobblehead in amazing detail. It's amazing looking. Unfortunately, from the Philippines to the Midwest in America is a long trip, and poor Charles he's in a few pieces. It's very fixable, though. It's very fixable. But he was snapped at the waist, and that's super gluable there. And his arms both came off. They were both snapped off in transit. So now he looks like he's doing the river dance. So I'm going to, but that's easily fixed. I'm going to go and add a couple of drops of super glue, and he's going right there on the top of the mantle there in the studio. And to John, thank you for that. It's very cool, and it's a great conversation piece. In fact, I've already had some people go, "Hey, who's that?" And of course, I start with Charles Darwin, and that takes us down the road of a conversation. It was 2 years ago this month. 2 years ago this month that the thinkingatheist.com website went live. And it's a long story as to why I decided to do it. The short version is that I was alone. I'd recently become an apostate and rejected the religion of my family. And I wanted a sense of community, and I wanted to just get it out. I just needed to I don't know, all the things I was thinking and feeling, I just needed an outlet for. And the thinkingatheist.com was sort of that way for me to vent and then find community with other people. So it kind of took off. It was 2 years ago. My first video posted May the 28th in 2009. It was called The Invisible God. It was not a brilliant video by any means, but it was significant for me. It marked the first time I'd ever used my abilities. I'm a professional video producer, and it's the first time I'd ever used those abilities to publicly challenge God. It was a big step for me at the time. It's huge. I was nervous. I had no idea how people out there were going to respond. I had no idea what the consequences were going to be. And I followed that up shortly afterward with a 2D animated satirical video called The Story of Susie, which has since become famous, and I've kind of reinvented it. Things just kind of took off from there. Here we are 2 years later, man. Over 40 videos later. 23 podcasts later. You got 25,000 subscribers on Facebook, 45,000 subscribers on YouTube. I looked it up on Blog Talk Radio. Over 200,000 people have listened to the Thinking Atheist podcast. 200,000. Over 5 million people have seen the videos. And the community of people who have disconnected from all over the world. I mean, here in the United States, Mexico, Denmark, Poland, New Zealand, Canada, China, Germany, the Dominican Republic, Sweden, the UK, Ireland, Greece, everywhere. People have come together. I'll tell you a secret, and this is true. And I hope this comes off the way I wanted to come off. But earlier this year, really, I struggled personally with whether or not I could continue the thinkingatheist.com. Not that it would ever go away, but what was my role in it? You know, since May of 2009, 2 years ago, on top of full-time job and then some, where I traveled quite a bit, a full-time relationship, all of the other obligations that come with life, what I do in the video production room just takes so much time, countless hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours, and thousands of dollars. You know, you're writing, you're editing, you're producing, you're posting just nonstop for 2 years. And anybody who's done anything, even anything that you love, knows the feeling of burnout. It's a very real thing. It's the kind of deal where once you felt the creative spark, where you felt like, you know, I've got this. I've got some great ideas and I know how to implement them, and I feel inspiration. I'm motivated, I'm energized. And then, you know, 2 years later you sit down in the same chair and you punish yourself because I think I don't know where to go with this. I'm tired of my mind, I'm tired of my body. Was it too much of a good thing? For anyone who does anything creatively, you know the feeling of frustration when you cannot draw the water from the well. I would sit here and stare at the freaking computer screen thinking, I should know this. I should have this done already. Why is this so hard? It wears you down also day after day when you see and you make the same arguments over and over with the same kinds of people. Do you ever feel that? You just become numb. Day after day. I would check the page and that page and dozens of emails every single day, all becoming, I say almost, becoming echoes of each other. You know, morality can't exist without God. The human eye is too complex to have evolved on its own. Adolf Hitler was an evolutionist. I had a personal experience and that proves God. Oh, the second law of thermodynamics. If humans evolved from apes, why do we still have apes? America is a Christian nation. Atheism is just another religion. Scientists don't know what came before the Big Bang. Scientist X believes in God. Here's a copy of his book. Read this. Carbon dating is bogus. The God of the gaps. The Bible's not literal. It's just a metaphor. I'd rather believe in God and be wrong so I don't go to hell. You were obviously never a true Christian. You have to study the original Hebrew and the Greek. You took this out of context. God will not be mocked, and of course, you will know the truth when you burn in the fires of hell day after day. You answer them and you answer them, and then you think, well, I'm not going to waste my time by answering, and the arguments keep coming and the comments keep coming, and you feel like you're not making any difference. None. You just become spent physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, all of it. I know Thunderfoot himself did a video a while back. He was talking about his own frustrations, his own reasons for considering just pulling the plug, at least temporarily, just get away, regroup. Now, my little pity party here pales, of course, in the light of the bigger picture. And that was brought to light by a message I got from a YouTube subscriber a few days ago. I just wanted to read this to you. It said, hey, Seth, I'm not sure how often you check your messages or if you read them at all. Long story short, I was raised in a very laid-back Christian home. I never had my parents' beliefs shoved down my throat. But until I was about 17, I always assumed I believed in God without ever really questioning it. And then one day, about a year ago, I found a video of yours, the story of Susie. That video blew open the doors for me, and I started watching other prominent atheist YouTubers. So I wanted to extend a thank you. You changed my life. Well, of course, you read something like that, and you just get goosebumps. And you are reminded why you started this thing to begin with. And you're reminded that it's a whole lot bigger than you. It's really not about me. It has grown far. It's evolved far beyond me, and I'm so glad for that. It's a family. It is a community. It's a support mechanism. It's a way to exchange information and ideas. I was reminded all over again why the website and the videos exist in the first place. despite all of it, the circular arguments from the preachers and all the trolls, beyond all the significant resources that this kind of work takes, some people are getting the message. They're gaining courage. They're out there realizing that they're not alone. They're asking tough questions, becoming less and less satisfied with just echoing the voice of their parents and their religious beliefs. They want to find their own voice. They're atheists who are seeing the benefits of community, which I really appreciate, because there are some people who are atheists who have completely isolated themselves. They're so worried about atheism becoming a religion or a conformist group that they reject any idea of community. And I think that's very sad. And if you're one of those people, I would encourage you. We are human beings. We need each other. There is strength in numbers. We can make each other better. Iron can sharpen iron. Don't isolate yourself. We're people. We're relational creatures. And this is one thing that most of us have in common. We have just rejected the idea of God. Atheist, agnostic, whatever. I also think this community has helped to break down many of the stereotypes of what atheists are. So often, and I'm sorry, atheists can be hugely guilty of snobbery. Hugely. Elitist snobs. Boorish snobs. Something we have got to work on. And that's how many other people see us. And I think what this community has helped to do, because we act like real people, is that many others are on the outside looking in thinking, hey, this is someone I can talk to. They might be listening to the radio show thinking, hey, that's something that's entertaining to listen to, that I can relate to, or at least I can be entertained by while I listen to another perspective. Nobody's telling me I'm an idiot for an hour and a half. It's been crazy. It's been amazing. Unbelievable 2 years. I remember there was a day Thunderfoot put my Noah's Ark video on his YouTube homepage. It's back in February of 2010. I just freaked out. I was so excited. I was thinking Thunderfoot. He was one of the few atheist YouTubers I knew about, hugely popular. I had tremendous respect for him, and I was like, oh, look at that. It's on his homepage. I remember the same feeling. P.Z. Myers would feature some of my stuff on his blog, or Dan Barker was the author of the book Godless, which was instrumental in my own rejection of my former faith. I had a chance to do a radio interview with a guy. Unbelievable. I mean, just called him at his home. We just talked for an hour. It was awesome. Michael Shermer of Skeptic Magazine. I got a chance to speak with him. What a tremendous honor. Richard Dawkins asked his website users to help my video called Welcome to This World go viral, which means he saw the freaking thing, commented on it positively, and told his people, get this video out there. I didn't touch the ground. I was floating. Richard Dawkins. Now, he doesn't know me from Adam. He pinballed off that video and moved on to all of his other endeavors. But for that one split second, for that 1 6.5-minute video, he was engaged, and I will take that with me for the rest of my life. Sometimes I guess all we need is just to be reminded that what we do matters, You got to step back and get some perspective and take a deep breath and clear out the cobwebs. And, I've resigned myself that we're always going to have an uphill climb in a religious culture. It's just always going to be out there. It's never going to be easy. It's just going to be pounding at your head every day. It's just the way it is. That's the nature of the beast. But I'll say I'm tremendously proud. Minds are being changed out there. People are being affected. They're becoming braver in their discussions about God. Now, I used to produce about 2 videos a month. Pretty involved. You're not going to see that anymore. I just can't get it done. The physics of my life, the logistics of my life are so, there's so much happening. There's just no way to sustain that anymore. And I think you may have noticed that. We're doing some more podcasts. You're seeing more like one video per maybe 3.5 weeks-ish. And that frustrates some people. They want to see more animated stuff, which takes a really long time, or they want to see more human interest, or they want this, or they want that. I realize I'm not in the pleasing everyone business. I just can't be. You drive yourself crazy that way. I'm going to produce, honestly, what resonates with me, and hopefully what I think will resonate with a large number of people out there, and do the best I can to not screw it up. I will always be a video producer, and I'll always do my best to try to put something compelling and entertaining out there. You're just not going to be able to see the volume that I once did. It's just impossible to sustain it. I don't want to ever have to sit at the computer again and go, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Moderation. It will be interesting, though, in the next 2 years. 2 years from today, what do you think the thinking atheist community is going to be like? How many people are going to be involved? What ripple effect will it have? I'd be really curious to look back in 2013 and just think, I wonder what all of this will evolve to become. Thanks for allowing me to digress for 10 minutes at the beginning of the show. Let's make this about the callers today, shall we? As we do a whatever show, and whatever's on your mind, we start with area code 712. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Hi, Mr. Thinking Atheist. Thanks for having me on.
I'm Seth. What's your name?
I'm Kevin.
Kevin, thanks for calling. What do you got for me, man?
I'm looking for some advice, and you are the first non-Christian source I've been looking for, or I've been asking, I guess, because from what I understand, you used to be a Christian, correct?
That's correct.
And now you're not. So you have family members that are still Christians, probably?
All of them.
Is that correct?
Every single one of them is a devout believer.
Okay. Well, I am 25, and up until 3 years ago, I was a Christian, and I am not anymore. And my mother is an evangelical Christian who believes in hell and, all the works. And I'm trying to find advice on what I can do to help her to not suffer the fear of her own youngest son suffering such a terrible fate after he dies, because we've only talked about this once since I left Christianity, and it wasn't an angry conversation or anything like that, but she started crying right there in front of me, and it was not I did not enjoy seeing that, and I don't enjoy knowing that this whole time she's afraid of what's going to happen to me, and I'm sure it causes stress, and it's changed the dynamic of our relationship. And I want to know if there's anything that I can do to help her to not suffer through that kind of stuff.
Kevin, every relationship is different. People are so wildly complex. All I can really do is tell you what happened in my own life, and maybe it will help you, okay?
Great.
Not only do I come from a religious family, but my parents are both trained theologians. Imagine that slap in the face. And I understand the very real heartbreak and pain that they feel. I've seen the tears. I've heard the pleas. I've had the long letters, the long emails begging me to return. The prodigal, please come home. And then it translated, or it moved from there to, if only we had been better parents. Where did we fail? Where did we go wrong? If only we had done a better job of showing you the love of Jesus, you wouldn't be here. It's our fault. So now not only are they brokenhearted because I'm going to hell, but they're brokenhearted because they think it's their fault. And how it went down with me was this. I decided that no matter what the consequences would be, I needed to live my own truth. I needed to find my own voice and not merely be an echo of someone else's. And I find so often that when I look back, I was parroting what I was taught from my earliest memories. We were raised around Scripture verses and Sunday school and vacation Bible school and chapel services and prayer at the mealtime and prayer before bedtime and God is real and heaven is real and Jesus is real. And as a child, I never had a chance to develop a worldview of my own. I never had a chance to develop critical thinking skills of my own and decide for myself. And I made a decision. I'm gonna live my own worldview and not theirs or anybody else's, no matter what the consequences are. And that translated into about 2 years of just chaos. They're giving me books. They're giving me links to some scientist who has proven that God must exist. They're pleading. We can't even have a dinner conversation before somebody happens to just incidentally bring up God. It's just the elephant in the room. And the only thing we've been able to really do, honestly, is I've pleaded with him, please, I'm a big boy. I'm 43. I'm old enough to choose my own worldview. And I'm at peace with that. And you need to be proud that you didn't raise a parrot, that you didn't raise a rubber stamp, you didn't raise someone who was just going to turn his brain off. I am out here seeking truth. And I've assured my family that if God shows up tomorrow, that I will be the first one on that bandwagon. If the evidence adds up to God or whatever that truth is, I'm there, and I've given them that pledge. But I don't think there's anything you can do to change how they feel. That's something that they own. Do you get along now? Do you spend time together?
Occasionally. I live about 130 miles away, so I only visit maybe once every month or two. We talk on the phone maybe once a week, but it's always, just casual stuff like, how are you, anything new, how's work, and stuff like that.
Do you feel kind of a weight in the room? Do you feel that it's always being unsaid, that everybody's talking around it?
Yes, definitely. And it's different. It's a little bit different than what you described because my mom is definitely not a theologian. And it's not something that ever comes up. It's only ever come up once, and it wasn't anything heated or anything like that. And I really wish we would actually talk about it more because I honestly think that would, if we could at least both understand each other. I thought maybe if she understood why I'm not a Christian, that would at least help her feel a little bit better. But I've tried talking to her. After we had this conversation, I had to leave abruptly because we were at her school and she had another class, and so we couldn't really finish. And so I sent her an email and I tried to, explain, I think we should talk about this more, but that was, I think, 2 months ago, and she hasn't replied. I've talked to her since then, and we haven't talked about anything faith-based. And so it's kind of more of an unspoken elephant in the room with me and her, and so I don't really get many opportunities unless I actually bring it up. But again, I don't want her to start crying like that again, and so it's hard. I just don't know what to do to help her if there is anything I can do to just help her to feel better, because I honestly don't care if she's a Christian or not. Really, that's up to her. I just don't want her to suffer like that, and I want to see if there's anything that I could do to help her with that.
My hope would be, and when you're dealing with what probably is a feeler temperament, it doesn't have much to do with fact. It's about comfort. So that's a challenge. I once sent a long letter to my family explaining why I specifically bullet by bullet by bullet, and it was the tip of the iceberg. There's so much evidence out there and reasons to reject the Christian faith and its doctrinal book, its foundational book. There's so much evidence that I actually sort of laid it out. Here's how I got here. Please understand it. Thank you. I love all of you. Let's all be a family, and let's celebrate what we have in common. And you might consider, if you feel like you can articulate exactly how you came to your rejection of God, just lay it out and say, I'm not interested.
That's actually what I did. I sent her a letter that I wrote to myself. I wrote it after I came out of Christianity to remind myself exactly why, so that in case, 5 or 10 years down the road, something happens and my beliefs change, I can at least see what my perspective was at the time. And so I sent her that. That's what I sent her, and then I also sent her an email with it explaining, this is, if you want to understand, this is why, this is what was going through my head. So I actually already did that.
Well, how did she respond? Did it become a debate, or did she?
No, because she never responded, and like I said, we haven't she hasn't brought it up. We haven't talked about it since then. I honestly, I don't even know if she got it, but I sent it to her, so I don't know why she wouldn't have gotten it. She hasn't brought it up since then.
I don't know. I'm not Dr. Phil, but I will say that if it were me, the tack I've taken is just I'm going to be the best son I can be. I'm going to love them up. I'm going to engage in every way other than the way that causes pain and conflict. We're going to spend, we're having a Mother's Day dinner together. We're going to go and all laugh and have a good time. And my hope is that over time we will just be able to move past this uneasy peace between us, and it becomes a more comfortable thing where they realize that their son is happy and comfortable in his own skin. And that's ultimately, I think, it's my choice to make and no one else's. And I think they as adults are going to have to they're going to have to realize that. So I wish you the best. I don't have all the answers for you, but I'm sure your mom is, she's like any mom. She wants the best for you, and hopefully over the course of time, you guys can sort of clear the air and maybe open up some doors, and maybe even allow her to begin sort of examining how she got to where she is. It's happened before with parents. You know what I'm saying? It's not impossible. So I wish you the best. I appreciate your call. Thank you.
I appreciate the help, and I appreciate all that you do. It's really great to get the chance to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. It makes my day. Take care of yourself.
You too.
I've had some people who've said, screw them. Parents don't get me. They don't agree with me. Fine. I cut myself off completely. And I'm always averse to that. There are times if your family is rapping on your door all the time and berating you and badgering you and verbally abusing you and getting into the lives of your children, and there are some families who just go crazy. And I think in those instances you do have to draw a very clear line in the sand. But usually I think there's got to be a way for all of us to live together. We're family. We're family. We got to try to figure this out. Area code 248. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
My name is Cliff Schrager. Is this Seth?
Yeah, what's going on, Cliff?
Hey, I'm honored to be on your program, and I want to tell you that, I wanted to let you know that you are key to people like me making it day to day to day. I've become friends with Rich Lyons too, and you two are lifelines to me. I was a pastor for 25 years. You know the buzzwords. It would be non-denominational, evangelical, Protestant. I went from dispensational to Reformed theology. And in 2007, it was end of rough finances. I'd lost a job a high-paying job as an associate pastor. And then we lost our home. Father's Day of 2007, our oldest son, we had 5 children. Our oldest son, David, was driving a Humvee in Iraq and blown up. One of the guys was killed, and David, the Army flew us to Germany. They didn't think he was going to make it. And my youngest boys, the youngest 3, then would fly and visit in Washington and then down in Texas. And Josh and Timothy are 2 youngest, freshman and senior in Lake Orion High School. Man, David was a hero, and my wife and my daughter, we were all with David as much as we could be with him. And fall of that year, my wife came back to Michigan to get the kids in school in Lake Orion, and I was by David's bedside. He had surgeries as often as he could have them, and just barely hanging on. And I got a call from the chief of police in Lake Orion. They'd been searching for my wife and me for hours. She was at a class reunion in Okemos, Michigan, and I was in Texas with David. Josh and Timothy were on their way to a Christian party for kids who had worked at a Christian camp with them. And Josh was on the phone. He was lost, missed a stop sign, and he and Timothy were both killed. And the community, the story went national, I think, once on one of the networks, and people from all over built us a brand new home. They, Art Van Furniture in Michigan, furnished our home. The love poured on us was unbelievable, and the loss is something you just can't get over. But I didn't lose my faith. I even said on the news one time, I said, what I believe doesn't make sense. I said, I believe God's all-powerful, and he loves me, loves my kids. He could have stopped it, and he didn't, and I can't explain it. But it didn't shake my faith. And then about a year and a half ago, I was, Timothy would be a senior this year. We have a beautiful home, no kids. David is still alive. He's married. He's got a lot of issues, but he's doing all right. Our middle son, Stephen, is married. My daughter, our oldest, is living in North Carolina. All devout Christians. My wife is a devout Christian. I quit going to church the day David got blown up. It wasn't a loss of faith. I just couldn't take the bull. I couldn't take the lies of happiness all the time, wonderful peace of mind since I found the Lord. I just couldn't take that. And about a year and a half ago, I had the time. I needed something to distract my mind, and an issue that I'd never dealt with theologically had to do with whether Paul was an authentic apostle or a fraud. The implications are enormous, and so I dug into that. I dove into it, and it was like a narcotic, for my mind, and I found the more I studied, my faith was vanishing. I didn't choose to reject Christianity. Christianity quit making sense. And then I found that there were thousands of people that have recognized that Paul was a fraud. He was one guy with a vision. And Jesus said, watch out for people like that. And there were other followers. There were several sects following Jesus after his time. Paul's was the one that happened to be politically correct when Constantine was the emperor of Rome, and his version won. And so if you opposed that, you were an opponent of Rome. And these things, I just found everything that everybody's hearing today in church, Mother's Day, every Sunday, is Paul. If they quote Jesus, they go back to Paul. And it's his religion. It's not Judaism. It's not. If there was a historical Jesus, it wasn't what he taught. It was one guy seizing the moment, and it took off. And my faith vanished. And my poor family, my wife she's the sweetest woman I know. And there's an estrangement between us. And my kids, they love me, and they're brokenhearted. You talk about an elephant in the room. I try to be away as much as I can and work as many hours as I can, because it's hard for them to see in their minds Billy Graham come in and he's going to hell. And it's your previous caller, I want to say there isn't anything you can do, buddy. Our version of theology at this point is people like me don't get better. Arminians would say, you can get saved again, but not Calvinists. This is the end of the line for me, and they know it. And it is. I've physically lost my youngest boys, and now there's this distance between me and all of the people that I love. And you and Rich you guys have saved my life. There've been some of your friends have found out about me and have friended me, and I would be in these long Facebook face slap conversations, and suddenly I had people kicking in that were smart, kind, wonderful, and it has kept me from absolute despair. And I thank you for what you're doing. I hope you never quit. I hope you never quit.
Honestly, I've been sitting here listening to you, and there are no words I can say to you about the loss of your sons. I can't imagine, and my heart breaks for you, man. And I am, I wonder, do your children and your wife, do they see your apostasy now as a conclusion you came to logically, or do they feel that you were damaged after the loss of your son, and this is a byproduct of an emotional wound?
I think the people closest to me think both. They see that the loss and the grief has been a catalyst, and this is my way of expressing it. But they also know that I am not credulous by nature. I've been duped before, but I think hard about things, and my kids know that, and they know that I've begged the question on Facebook about Paul, and there are no answers. And I cannot believe something that's not only lacking evidence, there is evidence of fraud in it. And it is blatant evidence. But the winning argument is, well, so many people believe it. How could God let it happen? Well, how many religions has God let happen for hundreds, thousands of years, and they were duped?
Well, Cliff, I'm amazed at the people who embrace the completely accurate, infallible books of the Holy Bible, which were chosen and canonized by men. They chose, we'll take this one and we're going to leave this one out. I think it speaks to comfort. I wonder if it's funny how crisis either drives some people closer to their faith and some people further away. Some people, it's like a blanket they wrap themselves in, and no matter what the logic or the facts or the reason or the science says, it's all about comfort. We'll be reunited one day with our sons, and I know that's going to be horribly difficult for you.
It has been,
and honestly, my heart, I don't know what I could say to you about the distance that you feel. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, or do they listen to your point of view? Do you just not speak about it?
I've tried, but I'm not as able to keep calm with them, nor they with me, just because there is this intimacy, and we're an animated bunch.
Sure.
And we like it that way. It's hard to just. But a lot of other people I've discussed with it on Facebook, so I just don't talk about it. I've tried to talk about it with my wife. My kids really don't want. I don't want to engage them on it, and they don't want to engage me. But they're smart kids, and I'd like to plug in and know what they're thinking. But what I'm hearing from them is that it is intellectual, and it was probably launched by, or at least the particular subject was launched as a result of the grief. People who don't know me as well see it as purely anger at God, which I don't deny that was true. While I was still a Christian, I was furious with a God who I used to defend as a good God, even because look at Job, the end of Job's life. He was blessed. Well, you know what? He didn't get his kids back. And if you had a monster standing outside of your house who would step on your kids if you said anything wrong. See, my view of Job used to be, he put his hand over his mouth and said, I'm not going to say anything anymore. God blessed him. I'm thinking, you know what? If there's a monster standing outside your house, he's going to kill your kids out of a bet with the devil, I'd quit talking about him too. That is
it's funny. The book of Matthew says that not a sparrow will fall from the sky apart from the will of your Father. And part of me is thinking, how much more valuable are we, his precious children, supposedly, that he came and sacrificed his son for and went through the ultimate torment. And now, he's going to take his finger off the button and allow the world to spin itself into chaos, and now we don't matter. And, those people say, well, you're just angry at God. No, what we're saying is that a benevolent, involved God who believes we are more precious than anything else in the universe to him would have done something God-like by now.
Yes.
That's my argument.
And I am tired of the argument I used to give. I was a good speaker and a good apologist, not the best, but good. And I would, when I got backed into a corner, my bailout, my ace up the sleeve was, his ways are higher than our ways. His thought, just like I did with my kids when they wanted to know about sex. You know what? Well, when you get older, it's too much for you. Well, you know what? At 50, when your kids get whacked, and God did it, him saying, him saying 3,000 years ago, my ways are higher, doesn't help. It's absurd.
It's encouraging to me I mean, forgive me, I may be reaching for the silver lining, but the encouragement to me is that you are not alone, that this community has provided a support mechanism to you and a reminder to you that despite all of the many significant challenges that you have gone through and continue to, that you are not alone in your critique of Scripture and your analysis of superstition and your worldview, and you can be reminded of that 24/7 online. And I'm tremendously thankful for your kind words about what is happening. It's far beyond anything I've ever done. And the people encourage me. You know, they trust me. I walk in some days and I'm like, I'm done. I've had it. I'm sick of fighting. I'm sick of going against the grain. I'm tired of everybody and everything. I live in the freaking buckle of the Bible Belt. I'm ready to just walk away and just forget it and go play golf. I'm done. And then I'll walk in and I will hear a story like yours, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally energized.
I don't know how I would have survived without discovering that there is a group of people, not just from birth atheists, but people who are lifelong Christians like me, who've born again. I mean, their eyes have really been opened to they're being duped, and these are wonderful people.
Well, this page may have been an encouragement to you, but I know at this moment I've got people all over my chat room screen who are talking about how you have encouraged them. So take that with you, would you? And thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Cliff, take care.
You too.
I found myself like choking up when he's talking about his son. It's just like, wow. How do you get around that? And then you realize that there are tens of thousands, if not more, just real people who go through real tragedy and triumph every single day, who have these complex life experiences, who are connecting and looking for a place to belong and be reminded that they are not alone. It is a tremendous reminder that we need each other, just like I said before. Let's talk to, I'm going to try to say your name right on Skype. Is it Tilazin or Tilazin?
Hi. Well, Tills is my screen name. My real name is Christian.
Christian.
That is. Yes,
thank you for
I've
calling.
never been a believer, actually. Well, thank you, Seth. I really enjoyed this show. I've been listening to your stuff for almost 2 years now.
Thank you very much.
My sort of thing I want to talk about is the apathy amongst non-believers, especially in Denmark. It seems that religion has become such a non-issue that when we have these really extremist groups, not many people really do anything about them. They're sort of the joke, but still they have this effect on people that they lure into their sort of cult behavior. Few days ago, I just saw one of them uploading a video on YouTube where he supposedly healed a minor of a broken collarbone, a guy who was like 14 years old, and he told the guy to get rid of his support and wave his arm around. So you got no pain, therefore you're healed. And what I'm going to do about it is I'm going to report it to the Minister of Health and their scam hotline, basically. So I just want to hear your point of view, if you think apathy could be a big issue when non-believers are becoming the majority.
It is such a complicated issue. Why do people not speak out? Why do people not stand on the front lines? Well, some of it is cultural, some of it is fear, some of it is because there are personal and professional often ramifications. I mean, even in my circle, one of the reasons that I don't plaster my face all over everything that we do is because in my professional life, my career sometimes intersects with people who are religious people. And even though it is illegal, how I am received and perceived affects whether or not we might get a contract, or whether or not we might get a phone call, or whether or not we might be included in a specific event, or invited or disinvited. It's a sucky way to live, but it's the reality that we live in. And I think some people don't stand up and speak out because there are some consequences, and they're not just thinking about themselves, they're thinking about their families. But I think apathy is a real problem. Think about it. We've got an entire here in America, people love to sit around at parties and talk about how to solve the world's problems. When's the last time we really did anything about it? When's the last time we actually took action? And, it's easy to talk, but to get out and actually do something to instigate change, to stir the storm a little bit is much more difficult for a lot of people. It's harder for them to get out and really fight. Maybe they don't know how to instigate change. Is your whole culture we just don't care? I mean, do you watch the headlines and see like radical Islam and all of the recent headlines with Osama? Does anybody in Denmark care about any of that?
Well,
or do they just check out?
The thing is that Islam, as you probably have noticed in Europe, is the new bad guy. Basically, everyone is against Islam. And I figure Islam is now getting all the punted, but the Christians are basically clearing the back doors because they're like, hey, they're going at Islam. Now we can do our stuff without them really noticing about it. But I think it's... I don't think it's not that they don't care, but it's just because Islam has been put so much focus on in the media, and the media just tends to forget about Christianity.
Yeah, well, let's be fair. Honestly, if you read the Old Testament, it is just as bad as
I've read the Bible
radical
and
Islam.
The Quran, yeah.
But I will say that in our cultural climate, you don't see, say, Protestant Baptists sawing the head off of the infidel and then posting the video to YouTube. Islam is a different animal in this day and age. Islam, I think, is the most dangerous of the cults, religions, superstitions, whatever you want to call it. And every time I bring Islam up, somebody brings up the Bible. Well, Christianity is just as bad. Well, yeah, in their sacred texts, sure. But culturally and in the headlines, you don't see Methodists doing honor killings when their daughters marry a non-believer. You see radical Islam doing it, and it is a very real threat and something that's, I think, needs to be dealt with. Apathy, when it comes to radical Islam, will destroy us. They'll steamroll over us.
I think yes and no, because I think what's been happening in Europe and in America and all the other Western countries and countries similar to that is we have a very strong secular culture as well as also have a very religious culture. I will take an example of looking at Uganda and the very Christian nations of Africa. They're doing extreme things against homosexuals, for example, and children, blaming them for being witches, and then using their Bibles to basically killing off homosexuals and killing or molesting children, violently abuse them because they think they're being possessed by a witch, basically. So I would say both religions are equally bad, but I think Islam is closer to us in a cultural sense because we're getting these radical Islamists are coming into Europe and are coming into America, whilst these Africans who are very devout Christians and are radical as the same way as radical Islamists are in terms of violence, in my opinion, they stay in Africa, basically. They don't really go out to Europe and America. They don't have the same resources.
You know, it's amazing how people will quote the Bible to condemn homosexuality and then forget all of the other commandments in there, like eating of shellfish and, boiling a goat in its mother's milk and all of those other things. No, those things those don't apply to today. But homosexuality, that's bad and worthy of death. It's horrible. I take your point. I think you've certainly brought to light something that wasn't on my radar. I mean, they're just executing them over there.
Well, Uganda, they tried to put this death bill on. It was on CNN and everything when this bill was proposed. Obama, he talked. Well, I can't remember the English word for it now. He condemned it, basically, this bill, which actually would give the death penalty for someone who was a serial homosexual, and instead revised it so it's only life imprisonment if you're a homosexual. And there is a documentary BBC did that you can find clips on YouTube of it, of a reporter trying to see how homophobic this nation actually is. And he's really surprised. It's like 95% of the population, everyone he asks on the streets are like, yes, homosexuals should be put in prison for life or killed off, basically.
It's unbelievable. It is the Old Testament all over again. Well, thanks for bringing that issue to light. Honestly, I'm going to Google it and find out more about it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Take care. I had a message from David about the 2012 conspiracy. Am I saying it right? Is it Nibiru conspiracy? Where they're talking about there's apparently, supposedly, the gross uptick in the earthquakes and all the natural disasters. And, of course, people are saying it's because the world is about to end. Now, I'm not talking about Harold Camping's group. By the way, if I might digress for just a moment, May 21st is supposedly the end of days, right? May 21st, 2011 is when Harold Camping and his followers say that the rapture will happen and it throws the world into the tribulation, and then the world will actually end, I think, in October of this year. There are billboards all over the place. We did a video on it if you haven't seen it. It's called Judgment Day. And I just have a huge smile on my face thinking about the sun coming up on May the 22nd. And everybody is still here. And you know there's going to be a bunch of people from this community and many, many others who were standing under those May 21st billboards, you know, with the big placards that say, still here? What happened to that whole Jesus thing? It just didn't happen like you said it was going to happen again. Of course, he predicted the rapture in 1994. They all stood out, I guess, and went out to some hilltop or monument and held their Bibles to the sky all day. Nothing. Well, the next story about the end of days is, of course, the Mayan calendar thing, which is 2012. And so David was saying the story claims there was a supposed planet discovered by the Sumerians headed toward Earth. The catastrophe originally predicted for May 2003, nothing happened. Then they moved the doomsday date to December 2012. And these fables link to the end of one of the cycles of the ancient Mayan calendar, the winter solstice 2012. They even made a movie about it, like 2012. I mean, I know it was just an action movie, but there are people who are losing sleep because they think it's over. Bye. Sayonara. Doomsday is coming. And they just shift that little date around whenever the facts become inconvenient. Area code 709. Thanks for waiting. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
I'm Andrew.
Andrew, what do you got for me today?
Well, I've got a couple questions for you, and I want to try to lead into them. So the first question I've got for you is, what kind of music do you listen to? Because I've always wondered that about you.
It's funny. When I did radio for 15 years, and when you play 14 songs an hour every single day, I burned out on music for a while. I was just nonstop day after day, and I did a lot of talk and a lot of news and whatnot. But now, honestly, I like music that kind of takes me on a journey that helps me to decompress. And as a producer, it also helps me to think creatively. So when I do listen to music, honestly, best part of my day, I hop in the car, I'm driving somewhere after the sun goes down, and I pop in some sort of I know everybody has a different type of music that resonates with them that sort of takes them somewhere. But for me, it's like orchestral soundtrack type music, not Indiana Jones, but music that is rich and lush, and it brings back memories and helps you just sort of clear the cobwebs out. Not old person music, but just a good orchestral film score type of stuff. Those are my favorites.
Do you ever listen to religious music? Do you enjoy religion even though you don't agree with what it says?
You know what's funny? I don't, but there are some Christian bands that I just love. I mean, I love. I can't listen to them because I'm continually reminded that I am in opposition to the message that is there. But there are some Christian bands that I love sonically. I love their sound. There's a band called Third Day. Everything they do, I love. I just love their sound. But no, I don't follow them. I don't listen to them because I just can't get past the lyrical content. But sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I miss it from the old days.
Yeah, back in the day doing Christian radio, I'm sure you listened to a lot of religious bands and things like that.
There are some songs that even now, when I hear them, I just start smiling. I mean, I just start smiling because it brings back memories of a certain time in my life, or I like it's singable. I like the melody. One thing you'll notice, though, about a lot of, especially back in the first 15, 20 years of contemporary Christian music, is that much of it was an echo of what was happening in pop radio at the time. You know, if pop radio had a big hit, 6 months later you'd see an echo of that on the Christian chart. You know, if somebody who was young and brunette and 20-something and had a certain vocal sound happened on pop radio, a short while later you'd see the exact same thing in the Christian radio market. We always seem to be a step behind everybody else at the time. But to give them credit, there are quite a few tunes out there that are well produced. They're hummable. They're singable. I just can't get past the lyrics anymore, so I don't go there. Okay?
What do you think about people who say that religion is good because it inspires people, like the Sistine Chapel and things like that, like inspires great works of art and music and literature? What do you think about that? Does religion need to be there for those things to be created?
I think the Sistine Chapel I don't use the word awe very often, but it inspires awe. The difference is that I see it as the product of one man's unbelievable talent, incredible, innate talent. I don't see it as inspired by God. God wasn't required for the Sistine Chapel. Do I think there is a tremendous amount of beautiful religious art and architecture out there? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it was fabric. They were designed, they were created, they were built, they were painted, they were sculpted, they were created by men. And that's how I go there. Okay?
All right.
Take care of yourself. Thanks for the call.
All right. Thanks for...
I hope I'm not... Oops, I'm sorry, man. Didn't mean to cut you off. Hope I'm not just babbling here. I guess it is the whatever show. Hi, I'm talking to... Is it Frankie? Franke? Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast.
It's actually John up in Canada.
John, what's going on, brother?
Well, I wanted to say I was going to say something, and then I got kind of sidetracked by Cliff, because that was just an amazing thing to hear. All the best out to him for everything he's gone through. But one thing while I was listening at the beginning of the show, I had to point out right away, sort of sidetracked. The whole reason I originally called was that you, Seth, do not ever have to apologize for slowing down and doing what you do. You are amazing. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. I, for one, really, really appreciate the quality of the work that you always put out. Like, everything you do is always worth watching. And if that takes you a little bit longer to do it, so be it.
Thank you. I can't see myself walking away at any point. But, to know that everybody understands what burnout is like and what, filling every hour of the day with this stuff is like, sometimes you just got to go and clear the cobwebs out. You just got to get some perspective. So thanks for understanding that. That makes me feel really good. What else you got?
Well, the other thing is, I certainly made a couple comments about listening to you and the interview you had with Mr. Deity while I was voting up here in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that really struck me in this particular election, and I know in America you've got a lot of it where politics is becoming about religion. How do you deal with that when, especially in the States, and certainly the last election we had, where every politician seems to be trying to out-Christian each other? Are we supposed to turn around, or do you think, rather, we're supposed to just turn around and fight the politics as well as the religion? Like, how do you approach that when the politics is becoming religion?
Look, I'm trying to decide how deep I want to go here, because if there's any subject that's as or more polarizing than the subject of religion is politics, and I'm trying to decide, do I want to call down the thunder here or not? But I will tell you what frustrates me. I hate it when the President of the United States has the obligatory final line, God bless you, and God bless these United States of America. Now, do I think we've had atheist presidents? Absolutely. Do I think they were afraid of committing political suicide by admitting it out loud? Absolutely. Do I think that these Pez-headed, bobble-headed, these suits out there on the campaign trail use God as political ammunition to make themselves look more worthy, more holy, more sanctimonious, more righteous, more vote-worthy out there? Yes, and it makes me nuts. It's so vacuous and transparent. You can see them coming a mile away, and yet every time they do a speech, it's about, we need to get America back to its Christian roots. And I'm holding up my finger going, actually, I think, honestly, people use God.
I'm just wondering how you wind down.
Yeah, people use God to feel superior. It happens all the time. I mean, atheists will often come off as superior. Yeah, we have science. You're a bunch of idiots. What Christians do is that they play the God card because they want to look more holy, more sanctified, more righteous, more trustworthy. And so they can go out into a public forum and they're speaking to tens of thousands of people and they just invoke God and bam, they immediately go up in the polls. And for me, I think getting God out of politics won't start with politics. I don't think it's going to start by let's throw an atheist into the White House tomorrow and let's have an atheist candidate. I think it has to start in the small community. I think the non-believers in our communities, in our towns, in our cities, at that level, that grassroots movement is going to have to continue to spread.
So you think
as we become more influential in our personal circles and professional circles, then it will help pave the way for some of the more high-profile offices to be prepared for a non-believing candidate. That might be a pipe dream, but that's my personal take. Do you have an opinion? What do you think?
I'm kind of leaning in the same direction, but sometimes it's really hard. I know this election we just had up here, a completely unscientific study, but everybody I know who voted for one particular party said they did so because it was the most evangelical.
When I was a kid, they used to tell us that we need Christian leaders and politicians out there. They were grooming us to go out and influence the political system. It happens every day. They want us to be a Christian nation. And so, but I think it's such a polarizing thing that if Richard Dawkins runs for president, it's so polarizing. I think some things are going to happen culturally in our everyday lives, in our smaller communities, before we are ready to have the openly atheist, full-bore, black and white rejector of God in the White House. Do I think that day will come? I sure hope so. I'm ready. Yeah. I'm tired of I'm tired of the bobbleheads. Not my Darwin bobblehead.
I wish I had one of those.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Taking me. Bye-bye.
Anybody who runs for office, doesn't matter who they are, what they do, they just play the God card. Bam. Boy, sure looks good, and he's a Christian. 779, thanks for waiting. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
My name is Dana.
Dana, what's going on?
It's Mother's Day, and my Facebook status is a Bleeding Virgin Mary, but other than that...
Were you the one who sent me... Wait a minute, hang on just a second. Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking of somebody else. A guy named Rick sent me a message, and it said he wants to join a global petition to rename the Virgin Mary Mary with the Cherry. I just thought of you, but I don't know why.
That's brutal.
Dude, I'm sorry. I totally derailed the train. All right, hit me. What do you got?
Okay. First of all, I'd just like to echo everyone and tell them that you're doing a great job, and I love your open mind. And I wouldn't really worry about not producing videos as much as you think that you ought, because if you haven't noticed lately, and I'm sure that you have, and I'm sure anybody who's subscribing to anybody on a fairly consistent basis, the atheist comedy and the atheist thinking is like saturating YouTube like no other. I mean, it's great. There's so much out there. I almost don't have time to watch it.
What are you talking about? Like Edward Current and those types of things? I mean, I don't see Thunderfoot, Coughlin.
There's hundreds of them. The Angry Atheist, the English Atheist. There's so much humor out there. Mr. Deity.
I'm not overwhelmed by it. When I look out, I see some prominent atheists. I enjoyed the Atheist Experience, Thunderfoot, Aaron Ra, Mr. Deity, Edward Current. By the way, Edward Current's fun because half the people who watch him who are religious have no idea that it's satire. They think he's legitimate. That's beautiful.
Right.
But
he's like Phil Hendry.
So you think the market on YouTube is oversaturated? You think there's just too much of it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that if you subscribe to the right individuals and feel like the living dinosaur, and anybody who's doing like any kind of like Christian fundamentalist ponage or anything like that, you always have the opportunity to like re-enlist. You subscribe to all of their friends, and then there are hundreds of either funny or clever or emotional or I mean, I have a YouTube channel myself, so.
I enjoy the variety. I mean, there are people who respond to my style. I take a lot of heat because they assume that having a website called The Thinking Atheist means that I'm supposed to know everything. And I'm the first one to hold my hand up and say, absolutely not. When I started thinking for myself instead of echoing the indoctrination of my youth is when I found liberation in my life, and I would hope that we would all be thinking atheists. That's what I say. But when I don't know something and I have to ask, which is often, oh, tell me about that. Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, I got this information wrong. Oh, I made a mistake. They're the first ones to leap and say, he's not credible. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not a thinker. He's not this. He's not that. My style is not for everyone. My style tends to appeal to those who enjoy a real guy kind of approach. I'm a real guy living in a real world, going through the same problems that everybody else is, and this is a chance for us to just sort of deal with them together. None of us have all the answers. I appealed, I think, to the people who can connect and relate to that. But there are a lot of channels out there, much, much different than mine, that people get as well. I mean, Thunderfoot's is filled with think pieces and a lot of scientific and factual information that I'm not privy to. He's better at it than I am. The Atheist Experience, Matt Dillahunty, guy's an encyclopedia and a former Christian, so he can really speak with authority about so many of these things. So you're right, there's a lot of resources out there, and not any one of us has to carry the load. I receive that. I get that.
Okay, then just one more thing I just like to throw out there. Mm-hmm. Do you think atheism, as it stands, is funny?
Funny?
Really, like Joe Pesci, right? Funny how, right?
Funny like I'm a clown? I mean, come on, what do you mean by funny?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? There are hundreds of funny videos out there that are, basically atheists or agnostics or whatever, making fun of Christianity or Islam or Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. But I don't think that atheism as a general rule is funny, because unless you take the Seinfeld mentality where it's all about nothing.
I use humor sometimes, hopefully sometimes effectively, in what I do. I honestly think humor is more about the delivery. If you are an atheist and you are speaking out against, say, the writings of Scripture, and you're doing the story about Balaam and his talking donkey, and you deliver it right, it can be hysterically funny. You're promoting atheism, but you can be funny. I think that people love to laugh, and I think people enjoy satire and occasionally enjoy mockery. Is not believing in God innately funny? No, but I think sometimes when we deliver the message, we can deliver it in a compelling, funny, and entertaining way, and that's what I try to do, and hopefully it takes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the call.
All right. Thank you, Seth. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. One thing that is tremendously uncomfortable is when someone who is not funny tries to be funny. That's my worst nightmare. It's my worst nightmare. Have you ever seen a stand-up comedian on stage? They weren't funny, and you ache for them. You hurt physically. Oh, get off the stage. Just let it be over. Or you see somebody who is producing a video on YouTube and they're attempting to be funny, and it is so uncomfortable. You ever have things that keep you up at night and you're like, I hope that never happens to me. Whenever I'm putting together some kind of a satire, I'm like, I hope somebody out there's laughing. Because my worst nightmare is that there's like crickets chirping. There's just nobody out there. Do I have one of those? Oh, I think I do. Yeah. That that is my worst nightmare. 447, thanks for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
My name is, I don't know whether you can pronounce it, but it's Tunde.
It's what?
Let's spell it for you. Tunde.
Okay, I'm just going to call you Bob.
Okay, but you can just call me Roger.
I'm just sorry. Go ahead. What do you got for me today?
So I'm an African, Nigerian to be exact, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but I want to start by saying a big thank you. Your channel has been very, very encouraging to me. And
thank you.
As an African, coming from where I'm coming from, faith is a really big deal. You don't have to be a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, a traditionalist, or a Christian. It's a really, really big deal where I'm coming from. So currently, I'm in the UK. I'm taking my master's. And when I got to the UK, I actually I started looking for God. Because all my life I've been a Christian, so it was more about the family thing. So when I got to the UK, I picked up the Bible. Now, I had never in my life read the Bible without a devotional before. When I read the Bible, it's one devotional or the other. So I picked up the Bible and I started reading it from the beginning. So I actually get to the part of the Bible in Exodus 21, 20 to 21, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, that's funny. That doesn't seem like the God I've been told about all my life. So I kind of took a step back, and I started going through the Bible one by one. And at the end of the day, the Bible effectively convinced me that whatever God is, and if there is a God, he has nothing to do with Christianity. I realized the fact that even my pastor did not know the Bible as much as I did. Because when I referred him to certain parts of the Bible, he was like, I refuse to believe that's in the Bible. And I tell him, okay, open it up, let's read the story of Jephthah. And he's like, wow. And, after some time, I just realized, something my mom said to me was that when I told her about all my views and I tendered all my views to her, she was like, at the end of the day, it's what you're comfortable with believing in. If this agnosticism or atheism is cool with you and you can teach your children about it and not regret it in the future, fine. But she's not going to raise an eyebrow about it.
I have never seen a scenario where you walk into a room and there's a believer and you give them a fact or a refutation of their belief and they go, oh, okay, great, thanks, and then they change their mind. What my hope is that they are like I was, where they are hiding the seeds of doubt well under the surface, and those seeds often take years, perhaps decades, to grow into something more significant. But the more good information and education and counter-arguments there are out there, perhaps will allow those to sort of take hold and maybe become something, if not now, then years from now. And I wish you the best in your master's degree. How long do you have left in school?
Well, I don't have so long. I have about four more months in the UK.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
Area code 403. Thank you so much for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Hi, what's your name?
My name's Randy.
Randy, what's up?
I wanted to talk about an interesting situation that's going on in a not so small town in Alberta called Morinville. There's 8,000 people in this town, and there are 4 schools, all of which are Catholic.
There's no primary or secondary education alternative? There's nothing
None.
other than Catholic?
None. It's a ridiculous historical anachronism. Canada, of course, does not have an official separation of church and state. And there are, in place in the Constitution, they allow for faith-based school systems to be publicly funded if that group was provided school systems at the time they entered Confederation. So this is a historical anachronism from 1876, and basically it didn't change when the Constitution was when we actually patriated the Constitution in 1981, and it could have been changed then, but they allowed it to continue on. So we have several provinces. One is Alberta, one is Saskatchewan, and one is Ontario, that have mostly Catholic school systems, a couple of Anglican school systems as well. But we've been cited by the United Nations Human Rights Commission for violating the International Treaty of Human Rights because it promotes one religion over another. I mean, if you had even a town that had a very large Muslim population, they would not be able to get a publicly funded Islamic school system.
Why is the United Nations the one raising the howl of protest? Why is it not a centralized, localized effort? I don't get why the UN would be involved. Are the people, is the community itself, are they cool with it? Have they just resigned themselves to it, or do just all the Catholics move there? Why not locally?
population of Catholics originally. Right now, it's only about 30%. But if math class in a Catholic school teaches that 30% equals 100% of the schools, I don't think they're getting much of an education. Right now, it's only been in the last 6 months that parents there have raised the issue. Some parents move there, and when their kids, you don't think about these things. You think any town of 8,000 is going to have a public school, a secular public school, and so they move there without actually checking, which is, one could weigh the positives and negatives of that decision, but it shouldn't matter. The secular public schools should be the default.
I agree with Daniel Dennett on this subject. I think that it should be mandatory in all schools to teach the facts of the world's major religions, not ideology, not this is true or not true, but whether it's Islam, Christianity, Catholicism, Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever. You teach the facts. Here's what it is. Here's what it says. Here's what it believes, and then you allow them to use the information to decide what they do and do not want to do with it. Are you part of the fight in any way, or are you just getting the word out?
But I do know of the people that are in the fight, and the Minister of Education has basically punted them back to the school board, and the school board's not going to do anything. And he's basically washing his hands of the situation, and it's amazing. He basically said, well, it's not my responsibility to do anything. But I'm thinking, if it's not yours, whose is it?
Yeah, he doesn't want to go on record. No, that's what that's about. He doesn't want to go on record opposing or bringing in a secular element, because then, all the other people, the other bobbleheads out there who are invoking God when they run for office or to replace him, they can say he's an agent of the devil, and then they can use that as a campaign platform against him,
He's already, though, said in a letter to the parents that secular education is a right of the parents.
Well, I appreciate that. That's good information to have, and
do anything to ensure that's an abandonment of one's duty.
I'd like to hear how that plays out. Would you drop me an email or a Facebook message and let me know how that happens?
Oh yeah, I definitely will. It's an ongoing situation.
All right,
it's still going on.
The clock's ticking away from me, my friend. I got to move on. You take care of yourself, okay?
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Great call out of Canada. What do you think of this particular format? Should we try this again? It was a potpourri of, you name it, of different ideas and subjects and people coming out from, with just whatever was on their mind. Do you enjoy that? We might have to do more if it's something that you thought was entertaining and compelling. Did it help you? I know the first few calls alone, honestly, I'll carry with me all week. I'm producing a video as we speak, actually, from a young couple who they rejected the faith of their mother and father, and wow. The fact that they are finding a fresh start, they're finding their own voice, they are finding a sense of community, not just at the Thinking Atheist site, but everywhere online. The internet has totally changed the game for so many people. But if this kind of thing resonates with you and you've enjoyed doing it, we ought to try to do it again. I have no idea what the next podcast is going to be about. If you have a suggestion, something you want to talk about, well, drop me an email, editor@thethinkingatheist.com. And we're debuting the new website update in the next few days. And I'm very excited. So we'll unveil that here hopefully by May 15th. Have a great week. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's